Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to this edition of Reporter's Notebook. Today, I am joined by Mr. Ford Sanders. Hello, how are you?
Hello, everyone. I'm good. I'm not even tired today, so that's good.
You're not even tired today. What, did you have coffee or something? What's the difference?
No, but Victoria, I say that, and then watch me get home, and I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
I'll probably knock out. So
It's midday. Did you finally get in the rhythm of that morning shift?
kind of. I mean, you'd think I would about, what am I, 3 months in now, 2 months into the morning shift, but I still am up till like 10 every night. But I take a little nap here and there throughout the day, so we're getting our sleep, so that's good.
That's all that matters. If you get naps, if you get just as much as you feel refreshed, then
make it add up to 7 or 8 hours.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it works. Right. Yeah. So tell me what your story was for today.
Yeah. So my story was actually a really important one that, Victoria, you've actually done something with them as well. So I talked with NC Stop Human Trafficking, and we did a full, update and debrief on what human trafficking really is to remind people. That's a story that's great that you can kind of do every now and again, multiple times a year, because human trafficking is very prevalent. Something important to note, a lot of people think human trafficking may just be sex trafficking, which is commercialized sex acts, but it can be labor trafficking as well. That happens a lot here in North Carolina. So I got to speak with Melinda Sampson over at NC Stop Human Trafficking. We talked all about it. We talked about labor, sex trafficking, and just ways to look out for it, and what they're doing, the next steps that they're doing to make sure people are aware.
Mm-hmm. And so what are some of the topics of conversation, or is there a change in conversation in terms of how people should approach trafficking and the people who are involved in it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the main things that she discussed, which with the change is, let's take away penalization of it. Let's not penalize people for human trafficking, because a lot of sex trafficking can look what we would know as prostitution, but it's not voluntary. A lot of it can be forceful. So, they say it's through force, fraud, or coercion, which we all have heard. And if you haven't heard, that's what it is. That's human trafficking. And if you're under 18, it doesn't matter even if you are doing it voluntarily, that is automatically human trafficking because you're a minor. But the topic of conversation is kind of changing now, is ways to look out for it. So one thing that they really stress is getting these professionals involved. Actually, bridging onto my story for tomorrow, went to the Pitt County Sheriff's Office. They've hired a special detective that is just handling human trafficking cases. So really getting that education in there and knowing what it looks like, rather than, penalizing or taking a step that you may think that they're just doing these illicit sex acts. It's not always like that. So definitely getting the education in there. And also they have one-on-ones. There's one at the LaGrange County Library happening tonight, one in Snow Hill at the Greene County Library happening tomorrow. So they offer these one-on-ones for the community as well, both at 6 p.m. by the way. But they offer these to, make sure you know what human trafficking can look like, because it can really manifest itself in a lot of different ways.
And I do want to clarify that it's changed the conversation from penalization for the victims.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So penalization for the traffickers is trying to get harder. We want to make that worse, because, these traffickers they prey on these victims. And one thing that we talked about, with looking at victimization and making sure these victims are protected, is also there's something called the EARN Act. And that's going to hold these big tech companies accountable. Trafficking can also look like commercialized sex acts that may have been caught on video. If those get uploaded to websites that show these acts, that's also trafficking. So the EARN Act is something that they're really pushing for in legislation to really make sure that these big tech companies are held accountable as well.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback on the evolving nature of crime, I covered a story yesterday where it's like the North Carolina Sheriff's Association, they held their annual business conference talking about tools that they need to incorporate in their offices because of the evolving nature of crime. And that's, technology is
technology. And that's really good to hear, Victoria, too, because her stress was professionals and, community members. They have the outreach like the 101s, but it's really good to see, sheriff's departments on levels like the statewide or local levels really implementing these specific detectives for these cases. So it's nice to see that, they're kind of getting a better visualization of what this really looks like. And like you said, not penalizing the victim and things like that.
So is the detective that's just working these cases, is that because there's an increase in cases, or what do you know the reason?
We didn't get into much of the data because, trafficking is really hard to actually put numbers on. But we know that trafficking is a problem everywhere. That's actually now a fact. Doesn't matter how big or small, there can at least be one case, and that one case is enough to really, we need to change this and we need trafficking to stop. So it's not necessarily due to maybe increases or things of that nature, but it's there to have that, that education and that training rather than just a general officer dealing with that. So it's all over the state. And something I really want to mention too is that that trafficking officer can also look into labor trafficking. Agriculture is huge here in North Carolina, and that was something she mentioned that that also is through force, fraud, or coercion. Getting a job, that's hard to look into when it comes to labor. So it's really getting that specialized help and training into those cases.
Well, this is an important topic, and we always need to keep on top of some of the trends and what's happening, especially here in the state of North Carolina. Kind of moving towards pivoting a little bit more on a positive note. With a state that's our neighbor, Tennessee. Is that right?
That's where I'm from.
Yes. So you recently
Nashville,
came back
Tennessee.
from vacation. Is that right?
Yes, back home to good old Nashville.
Okay. So for someone who's never been to Nashville, what is one place that a person like me who, has some vacation time left and might want to check out Tennessee, what place should I check out? What's the local input from
Let me tell you,
Senders?
This is what a true Nashvilleian will tell you.
Okay.
You either go to Party Foul, Prince's, or Helen's. One of those places, okay? You can go to Hattie B's too. We are known internationally now for our hot chicken. It is literally called Nashville hot chicken. Go to any KFC in the United States of America and order hot chicken, and you'll see the name Nashville right in front of it. So I gotta tell you, you gotta do that. If you want to do something else, the really big tourism thing to do is, which us locals like to go to as well, Broadway. Broadway is, we're famous for it. You've got bars, you got music, you got country music, and everything up and down that road. So I'd say hot chicken and going to the bars on Broadway.
Well, there we go. So anyone who's going over to Nashville, Tennessee, you got the local input.
Hey, I'm giving you the good restaurants. I said you could go to Hattie B's, and I love Hattie B's. We are not degrading them at all, but Hattie B's is now in Vegas and Chicago, and they've gone national, which we love. But I like that true local hot chicken, like Helen's, Prince's, or Party Foul. Those are the good ones.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much, Mr. Ford Sanders, for joining me on this edition of Reporter's Notebook. And to everyone who's watching, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. All right, bye.